Once we know how to combine like radicals, we can look at some more complicated problems. For example, let's look at the square root of 2 times the square root of 5 plus the square root of 11. Do you have any idea how we might tackle this problem? Any intuition or guesses? This looks similar to some things we've seen before, and in fact, we can use the distributive property here, to distribute that root 2 to the other radicals. Root 2 times root 5 gives us root 10, and then root 2 times root 11 gives us root 22. Those are not like radicals, so we can't combine them, and they don't have any perfect square factors, so we can't simplify them. So this is all we can do. All right, let's look at another situation. Let's look at 4 plus root 3 times 2 plus root 3. Any guesses or intuition or thoughts? Well, we've got 2 terms here and 2 terms here. How do we multiply 2 things that have 2 terms? We can FOIL. Let's do it. If we multiply the first terms, 4 times 2 gives us 8. The outer terms, 4 times root 3 gives us 4 root 3. With the inner terms, root 3 times 2 gives us 2 root 3. And then the last terms, root 3 times root 3 gives us root 9. However, what is the square root of 9? It's just 3. So some of you might be able to get straight to 3 in your head without doing the step where you take the square root of 9. That's a little bit of a shortcut. If you can't do that, you can take root 3 times root 3 and get 9, and then you can evaluate it in the next step. But it's a shortcut to notice that root 3 times root 3 is just 3. Either way, at this point, we have like terms that we can combine. 8 plus 3 is 11. And then we have like radicals here. 4 root 3 plus 2 root 3 is 6 root 3. And so we end up with 11 plus 6 root 3. That one involved foiling and combining like radicals. We're going to do one more, and then I'm going to ask you to look at some of the other examples. Let's take a look at 5 plus root 2 times 5 minus root 2. Again, this is one where we can FOIL. The product of the first terms, 5 times 5, is 25. The product of the outer terms, 5 times negative root 2, is negative 5 root 2. The product of the inner terms, root 2 times 5, is 5 root 2. And then the last terms, root 2 times root 2, well, it's root 4, but we know that the square root of 4 is just 2, so you might even be able to do that in your head. Now we're going to combine like terms, but I want to point something out. Positive 5 root 2 and negative 5 root 2 cancel, so all we have left is 25 minus 2, which is 23. So occasionally we'll have a very complicated radical expression with multiple radicals where you might have to FOIL things out. And it's worth going through all of these steps because in the end, we might end up with something as simple as a whole number. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we end up with multiple terms, but the only way we can figure that out is if we go through the process of simplifying.